So my entire life, I've been obsessed with one car. Unlike most people who may be obsessed with a supercar, a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, there's one car that always captured my imagination. Maybe because it was a bit practical, maybe it was because it felt a little bit achievable, maybe I just couldn't help infusing fantasy with reality. It was the BMW M5. And the thing with the M5 is, I found the formula just irresistible, which is that you have a practical everyday car that you can use, that your folks, friends, whoever can be comfortable in. It is a car for all practical, all real purposes. And then it turns into a monster. And it was really brought to life by the Top Gear video, the famous one on the E60 M5 by Jeremy Clarkson. Now, the thing is, over the years, since my childhood and since the years of Top Gear, the concept of an M5 has really evolved. And as I grew up, as I got my driving license, as I started driving, as I started owning my own cars, I realized that what the M5 had become was very different from what I thought of as the M5. Because when I looked at the modern M5s, one, they did not really look like normal cars anymore. Even to a casual non-car person, all the muscular arches, the bodybuilding in car design, all of that made it very obvious that this was not a normal car. So it no longer had that discreet everyday car appeal. Secondly, when I actually got a chance to first sit in these cars and then drive them, then I realized that as far as everyday cars were concerned, they were heavily compromised. If you just take the F10 M5 for example, the ride quality is decent, but if you moment you compare it to a normal 5 series, it falls apart. And of course, great loud exhausts are amazing, but the moment you are actually carrying passengers, again it falls apart because it becomes compromised versus a normal car. So then it brought back me to the question, and sorry, one more thing, the size of the thing. The original M5 was the size of what a 2 Series Grand Coupe, the saloonish thing, is today. And the modern M5, the latest one, is almost 2.5 tons the weight of a truck. So the moment you got into the M5s, you realized that they were not really sports cars as much as sporty, engineering-defying feats. So all of this brought me to the conclusion, what really is an M5? And I've been searching on this question for a while, if you've seen my earlier videos. Initially, I thought that the F10 335i was a great shout. It was very similar in size to the E39 M5, the classic M5. But at the end of the day, the E39 the F10 335i is not as luxurious as you may expect a proper full-size saloon to be. It's still a 3 Series, not a 5 Series. It is ultimately a decent rear-wheel driven BMW, but it doesn't have the finesse in handling, in finish that you may expect. So there was that. Then I considered the Alpina B3, which I still think is a very strong contender because it has a finesse in handling, it has a finesse in ride, and it is a monster, but yet to the average person you will never notice it because as a normal car, it's a normal car. But ultimately it is still a 3 Series. It ultimately doesn't have that luxury vibe that, for me, when I think of an M5, it is a luxury saloon that people will be wowed because it's a nice, comfortable luxury saloon. In the country that I come from, it could almost be chauffeur driven. But the 335i or the Alpina or the F10 platform in general is not that car. Which then brought me to this car, the G30. I'm going to turn the camera around. The G30 5 Series. The G30 5 Series is a very, very interesting proposition because the G30 5 Series, while being a large 5 Series, it's larger than the F10 as far as dimensions go. It's almost 7 Series size. It has one very interesting trick up its sleeve. The first part of it is obvious. We'll ignore that garbage truck creating some sound. The first part of it is obvious, is that it is a very sober, a very classically BMW looking car. There is no overt shoutiness here. This is indeed a luxury sedan in every sense of the term. But there's one other trick hiding under the hood. And the thing is, this car is lighter than you expect. In fact, when you compare the spec sheets, you realize that this car, the G30 5 Series, weighs as much as the much smaller F10 3 Series. So this particular car, which we'll get to in a second, which is a 540i, and you probably know where I'm going here, as you can tell from the title of the video. This particular car, the G30 540i, weighs in at about 1600 kilograms, which is about the same, if not a little bit lighter than my Alpina B3, which weighed in at about 1610. So what you have here is you have a big luxury car which has one of the most important ingredients, one of the rarest ingredients these days for a good handling, a good dynamically exciting car. It has lightweight. And then the story gets better, because what I have here is a beautiful example, my car of course, a beautiful example of the G30 5 Series. In fact, keeping the M5 aside, and we'll talk about that, and probably I'll make a video in the future comparing a G30 M5 versus this particular car. This is a 540i, and the 540i is a very interesting proposition in of itself, because what you have is you have that critically amazing BMW B58 inline 6 engine. So you have that, which has a lot of potential, and this is, despite its sober looks, a very, very powerful car. So you have the 540i. Because it's not a V8, it's a 6-cylinder in front. The front is lighter than you expect compared to, say, if you would drive something like an F10 M5. And then to kind of finish it all off, when you see how the dealers brought this car to Singapore, what you notice is that they spec'd it up to the gills. So of course you have the M Sport package. In this particular Mediterranean blue, it's rather discreet, but still you can get a sense of those bumpers. They look rather nice. Again, it's discreet. To the casual viewer, they won't even notice it. But to the person, to the car enthusiast, they'll notice, wow, those are nice M Sport bumpers. They look good, they look discreet, like an M5 should, because an M5 is not supposed to shout in your face, honestly. Side note, this Mediterranean blue color has beautiful sparkles in the sunlight. Then you have the 20-inch wheels, albeit filthy here because I haven't cleaned the car. And the interesting thing about it is they fill up the arches really well. So you have the 20-inch wheels doing a great job, but yet the car is not as low as you might expect. On my Alpina, I was constantly scraping the ground. On this particular car, I'm going to just give you a feel. Hear that sound. No scrapes, because it's not as low as you might expect. It's very, very practical. So there's that. You have that sporty intent, yet it's practical enough for every day. And in Singapore, where I stay, you have a lot of multi-story car parks, other things going on, which make it... if you're driving an M5 or an Alpina, you're constantly adjusting. In this particular car, and there's another car behind me, who apparently wants to be in the video. In this particular car, not so much so. So there's that. Building on the spec. In Singapore, they brought it in with beautiful Napa leather. Look at that. I mean, this practically looks like a Bentley inside. Could do a bit of cleaning. It's white color, difficult to maintain, but nonetheless, when you look at this car, when you think of a luxury sedan, I can't think of anything else that quite fits the bill. Because unlike a low spec SE or whatever that you may find in Europe, over here with the leather dashboard, I particularly like wood, this burl walnut. Some people don't, but I'm a big fan. Old school luxury, reminds me of old Jaguars and luxury cars from when I was younger. This particular car's interior is indeed Mini 7 Series. This is as luxurious as it'll get. So all of this while, to the casual observer, when you look at this car, there's nothing that tells you that it's a sports car. It's just a luxury car. Small sporty hints with the M Sport, by the way, it also has soft close. Nice touch. I used to not be a fan of these things, but what I realized, the purpose of them is not your convenience. The purpose of them is for you to not constantly knock your car structure by slamming the doors. It kind of helps the car stay fresher. So there's that. So here you have a high-spec BMW 540i. So when I got this car, I had every hope that this would be the M5 that I always wanted. And when I sat in the car inside, it kind of always, when I first stepped in this car, it really fit the bill I'm going to sit in. But then I noticed the first flaw. I'm going to start the car. And you hear it. It's a nice six-cylinder sound, but it is not the perfect six-cylinder sound. Let me put it, it's not the most aggressive six-cylinder sound. If you start an Alpina, it's more aggressive. So that was the first flaw that I noticed. That it's that B58 engine, that engine can sound really sporty in other applications, but in this application, it sounds normal, which is not a bad thing. If you look at the original M5, the E28, you start that engine, it's not that is shouting out at you the loud exhaust. The loud exhaust is really a feature of modern cars, where everything has to be shouty, the body kit has to be shouty, the exhaust has to be shouty. It's the social media age. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but then it was something that struck me. Then I came to the second issue. Not issue, but the second thing that's not perfect. Well, it starts off with something that's perfect, which is how the steering wheel feels. This is probably the best feeling steering wheel. I know people complain about modern M steering wheels being too thick, but actually I have a thinner steering wheel in my 7 Series. In this car, it feels perfect. Like, this is so squashy. I have had an S5, I've had other cars, the Audi steering wheel, etc., the Mercedes steering wheel. This feels amazing. But the thing is, while the steering wheel feels amazing, the steering has no feel. And I want to talk a little bit about steering feel. And this will get back into what I think about this car. The steering, like any modern car, is very numb. That's a given. But what surprises me in this car is how light it is. Because one thing I always associated with BMW is that it had a heavier steering, which I liked. If you compare this to my previous car, the F06 Grand Coupe, whatever the number is, a 6 Series Grand Coupe, heavy steering. The X5 M50D, heavy steering. This car has very light steering. You can weigh it up in sport mode, but it has never got that BMW steering heaviness. So those two things were the things that strike out at you. So when I initially got this car, while the, on paper, light, beautifully spec'd, beautiful interior, just the right level of looks, etc., that B58 engine, these were the couple of things that stood out at me and kind of disappointed me, because I remembered other cars which do it a little bit better. I remember the Alpina with Akrapovic, which sounds just right. It gives you a nice sound at startup, yet it's not difficult at speed. And of course, the steering feel of the F10 3 Series is slightly superior, not great, but superior to the G30 5 Series. But then I've spent about 3,000 kilometers with this car. This car is currently at about, let's have a look. We are at, there we go, 62,000. I got this at 60,000, so it's 2,500 kilometers. And I've realized a few things. The first thing that I've realized is that the car, the steering feel, you get used to it super fast. Super fast. You don't even notice it. It becomes second nature. It becomes second nature to such an extent that when you drive cars with heavier steering, they feel weird. So the initial reaction that I had, because I was driving an F10 Alpina B3 and the G6 series before that, is that the initial lightness, you get used to it. It does not bother you. The second thing, on the exhaust note, there are very easy solutions for exhaust note. You can install a Remus exhaust, you can install a Valtronic. I haven't been able to find a Akrapovic for the 540i. It's there for the M340i, but I think it's not long enough for the 540i. But nonetheless, a solution exists. But the more I drive this car, particularly with the one change that I've made to it, I keep questioning, do I really want it? And the reason that I wonder whether I really want it is this car is, when you put it in sport mode, the engine does get a very nice, rich sound. It's not in your face shouty, but it is sporty enough to get you, feeling good about it. But the rest of the time, when you're driving, 95% of your time when you're driving, it's perfect. It's perfect. It's that slight 6-cylinder pearl. You know it's a 6-cylinder car. It's not farting at you and popping at you and all of that stuff. And the question that I really have is, those farts and pops are amazing for a little bit of time, but for the majority of your day, do you really want a drone? Do you really want a fart and a pop? Or do you want something that tells you that what it is? It's a very rich sound. It's a very smooth sound. BMW 6 cylinders are smooth. You want that. So which is the reason why I have not touched the exhaust, because I'm like, I am probably going to regret it. It's one of those things that you think that you want, but when you actually use something, you realize what you need is something else, which is going to be the theme of this video. Why I think this car is the M5 that you really need, not the M5 that you want. And the one change that I've made has really turned it into the M5 that you want, which was really illustrated to me by a side-to-side comparison that I did yesterday between this and an M5. So the one change that I've done to this car is that I've done a stage 1. It's done locally here in Singapore by a local tuning expert. They're experts on the B58 engine. And this car is now developing about 30% more horsepower. It's the stage 1.5 because I've upgraded the parts as well. I've upgraded the turbocharged pipe and a couple of other parts. So it's a stage 1.5. I'll put it over here, what you can see what is developing. The reason I'm saying 30% extra horsepower and not the actual numbers quoted is because I feel that the numbers aren't exactly correct. BMW engines are known to be underrated a little bit. So when I see the base power run for this car, I see in the dyno it being lower than I expect. And having driven many cars, I have a certain butt horsepower feel, call it what you may. And my butt horsepower feel for this car, because I had the Alpina that was around the same weight, that was developing say around 450 horsepower-ish. Alpina is supposed to do 410, really doing about 450. My butt horsepower feel on this car was a little bit lesser than the Alpina, but not by much. So my butt horsepower feel on this car was about 380 horsepower, officially 340, in the dyno about 320. But I think it was really doing 380, so I don't know where the dyno is coming in. And now, after the stage 1, my butt horsepower feel on this car is in excess of what the Alpina is doing. So officially it's doing about 420, 430, 600 plus Newton meters of torque. My butt horsepower feels closer to the 480, closer to 650 Newton meters of torque. So basically, similarly, if not a little bit more torquey than the Alpina B3. But just hold on for a second. So going back before I was interrupted, my butt horsepower feel on this is about 450 to 460 to 480 horsepower, 650 Newton meters. And the way I asked the tuner to do this up is that a lot of that torque comes up immediately. So one complaint that I have with this car and most turbo cars, every turbo car I've had other than the Alpina B3, is that you have a little bit of a dead zone just before you hit the power band at 2000 RPM. These beautiful BMW N54, N55, B58 engines. This car had a touch for dead spot before you hit that 2000 RPM, which the Alpina didn't, because the Alpina has a very interesting twin turbo on the modified N55. So there's a turbo that comes in at low speeds and a lower engine speeds and come at a higher speeds. This car has only one turbo. But somehow the way they've done the stage 1 is that because there's so much torque being developed, this car feels like a diesel almost at 1500, 2000, 2500 RPM. It is a rush of torque. Zero lag. It's crazy. And I asked them to make it a torquey map. So the thing is now, this is such an effortless car to drive. It is so light, right? The big thing about this car, I talked about the steering being light, but the other thing is the car is light. It feels as light, if not lighter, than my Alpina. Probably at high speeds, if I'm cornering, the Alpina may be better. I haven't cornered this at 150 kilometers per hour. How can I? In Singapore, the speed limit is 90. But at the speeds that I've been driving it, and I did take it to Malaysia where the speed limit is higher, it has such a lightness of feel. It does not feel like a 5 series. It feels like a 3 series. And that's to do with the weight. You look at the weight, 1600 kilos today's day and age is way lighter than the BMW M340i, because that has the X drive and other hybrid components, for example. So this 5 series with all of this space that you see behind me has the weight of a 3 series or lesser, maybe a 1 series or 2 series. Grand Coupe is almost similar, especially if you put a 3-liter engine in it. So that gives this car an effortless performance, yet with kind of space that you can just have everybody. I'm just going to show you, like, and you can see, of course, how luxurious the front seat is. But I'm going to sit in the back. I'm sitting behind myself. I'm about 172, so not the tallest person in the world. Removing this umbrella. Getting right in. So there we go. Look at that. I'm sitting, look at the space. 1 palm, 2 palms. So much space, so much luxury. You've got everything that you have, all the Krutama, rear air conditioning. Don't need it to be super cold. Extra vents over here. This is where the Alpina B3 falls short, because Alpina B3, yes, it's a nice saloon, but it's not a luxury car by any means, even if you put nice leather on it. So that's where this car for me, though the Alpina has a slightly better steering feel and probably better handling, on ride, despite the 20 inches, this car matches it blow to blow with the Alpina B3. And the luxury, this particular car, I'm sorry, you just can't compare it to a F30 3 Series. So that's where this car becomes a very interesting proposition, because suddenly you have a luxury car that a person could be chauffeured in. You know, I come from India where a lot of cars are chauffeur driven, and I could totally imagine somebody buying this car just for the back seat and being perfectly okay with it. Right, forget about the engine and everything. And that is what makes this a real M5, because when I compare this to the F10 M5, so my friend has an F10 M5, he was very kind to let me drive it the other day, and I've also been considering getting an F10 M5 because I have the psychological desire for an M5. I drove his car. It's an amazing car, very well maintained. I'll put a link to his car over here if you're interested, because he spent a lot of money getting the engine and everything just right, because that S63 engine needs a little bit of work. I drove that car. Very well-maintained car, everything in perfect condition. It has a nice Akrapovic exhaust. I noticed two things. One is the F10 M5 feels a size bigger, even though this car, the G30, is bigger technically than the F10 5 Series. The F10 felt bigger, maybe also because of the weight. The F10 M5 is 1900 kilos, this car is about 1600, and it feels heavier with the V8 up front. And of course steering is heavier, but excluding the steering, it just feels like a different size of car. That was also the complaint I had with the 6 Series Grand Coupe. It felt one size bigger, significantly bigger than the 3 Series. You were seriously knowing that you were in a big heavy car. And that's where this car kind of defies the laws of physics, because it's such a spacious car. It's a huge 5 Series inside. Obviously it's not a 7 Series, but it's still massive inside. And yet the car feels like a 3 Series, it's so light. So yeah, so you have this duality of this luxurious interior with incredible light feel. And when you throw in a stage 1 and you're hitting these power to weight and torque to weight ratios, I was doing the math on this. The power to weight and torque to weight ratio is in excess of an F10 M5. What you have a car is that from performance terms, except maybe at very high speeds where the real last bits of horsepower kind of matter, but at the speeds that you will drive on for 99.999% of your life, unless you do autobahn runs every day, which nobody does, this car is not just more than a match for the F10 M5. It is faster than the F10 M5 at low speeds, at low engine speeds, because of, in this particular car's case, the torquey nature of the stage 1 tune that I've gotten done. So what I have now is, I have on one hand the F10 M5, which is a real M5. Probably if you take it to the Nürburgring, it will destroy this 540i, because it has that last degree of chassis balance, so on and so forth. I have that car. But as a regular luxury car, would anyone buy that car as a chauffeur-driven car to sit in the backseat? Not a chance. Too loud, too noisy, too stiff. Now you have that. Or then you have this car, which is light on its feet. To the driver, while it has a light steering, which you don't like, the rest of it feels so, so agile, like a 3 Series. Yet it has this beautiful interior that has a luxury of a 7 Series, the space of almost an old generation 7 Series, probably bigger than a 5 Series. So you have almost the best of both worlds. And which is why the more I think about it, the more I'm convinced that this car, the G30 5 Series, is an amazing platform, because it was one of the... See, if you look at how BMW worked, the E generation had a lot of weight saving. They had aluminium bonnets, etc. So you look at E60 5 Series, E63 6 Series, weight saving. They feel light. I had a 6 Series convertible. It felt light, despite the fact that it's a convertible. Then you have the F generation. F generation, the 5 Series and 6 Series just became these big behemoths. Super heavy. Whether it's the F10 535i, F06 6 Series Grand Coupe, whatever you have it, F10 M5, big behemoths. Then in the G Series, I have the 7 Series, the G12 long wheelbase. Incredibly light feeling for the size. It's a massive car. That car should weigh 2.5 tons. It weighs 1800. So you cannot believe how light it is. I drove an Audi Q8 in Spain recently when I went for a holiday. When I compare that car to the 7 Series, which is 7 Series technically a bigger car, if you look at the length of it and the width of it and all of that, the 7 Series feels like 3 sizes smaller and 500 kilos lighter, which is what it is, at least the lighter bit. And so this G generation of BMW seems to have that lightness on its feet, at least the 5 Series and the 7 Series. I haven't driven the 3 Series extensively, which has given it an incredible advantage. And in this day and age, lightweight is such a rare commodity to have with all the hybridization and everything that's going on. So yeah, the more I think about it, what is an M5? What is the original E28 M5? It's a fairly discreet looking car, as this is. To the normal person, it's just a 5 Series with very light touches that tell you something special. A little M badge over here, slightly bigger wheels, slightly sportier bumpers. Ironically, the E28 M5 also has a white interior. At least in the US, it only came with a white interior. So you have that. What else is the original M5? Original M5 has the proper space to be a family car, the proper ability to carry 5 people with no compromise. It's not like the ride is compromised. It's not like the noise vibration handling is compromised. The E28 M5 has a massive boot for its era. This car has a massive boot for its era. It's almost 540 liters. Very good size, very good shape. Yes, my friends, though this car is not called M5, though this car doesn't have the last word in steering feel, I have to say that more than the modern monstrosities that the M department is bringing out, which will give you amazing lap times, for the real world, this is indeed the M5 that you want, or rather that you need, though it may not be the M5 that you want. To end this video, I will give you a little bit of a rev. It's a beautiful 6-cylinder sound, very reminiscent of older BMWs, even though it's not naturally aspirated. Yeah, this is maybe the car that you want. I love that mechanical whine. Alright folks, I'll see you next time.